Thanks for tuning in to the Old Dirty Basement. Today's episode will be part 1 of 3 on Jeffrey Dahmer. This first episode will deal with everything leading up to and including his first murder. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, if you could leave us a rating, it really helps us out. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a written review, and that really helps us out. So we present to you part 1 of Jeffrey Dahmer.
This is the Old Dirty Basement, home to debauchery, madness, murder, and mayhem. A terror-filled train ride deep into the depths of the devil's den.
With a little bit of humor.
And history.
I'm your announcer, Shallow Throat. Your hosts are Dave and Matt. I love you, Kate Beckinsale. Call me sometime.
Hey, this is Matt.
And this is Dave.
And welcome to the Old Dirty Basement.
Where every week we cover a true crime
Or a compelling story.
So sit back,
relax,
and comprehend.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the basement. As always, I am Matt, and with me is Dave.
What's going on?
And Zap. What's up, Zap?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
It's going well. What do we got today, Dave?
This one's very disturbing, but it's the hot topic right now. So we're going to cover Jeff Dahmer.
Yeah, that is everywhere. Well, Netflix, which is pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
today.
Everybody's talking about it. Everywhere I've been, it's come up in conversation. Zap, what'd you think of the show?
I need to reevaluate my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. I mean, it was very disturbing. This happened when we were in high school. And I think at that age...
Well, he was killed in 94.
No, but the crimes and when everything came out, we were probably like, 15, 16?
But you didn't hear too much about,
details.
I didn't hear any like details. Just say, a person found dead, but I don't think there was much talked about it on the airwaves.
You're catching it as it's coming out. It was little by little, piece by piece by piece. Certainly none of us could have remembered the entire story as it unfolded. And even then, it had unfolded in the local town, right? This was one of those things. This was a local thing, Milwaukee. It's just the way it went.
Milwaukee.
Right. So we certainly heard pieces national news wise, but nothing to the extent that the Netflix covered. And I mean, again, I think I got to reevaluate my life because I devoted 10 hours watching this show. And I'm thinking, God, what's keeping me sticking to watching this show? This is just a show about such atrocities, absolute atrocities.
Agreed. I mean,
the cross we bear for having to do a podcast.
Yeah,
that's a lot of
research.
A lot of what I was hearing also is that people were trying to sit down and watch this show, and a lot of like their wives or some of their older kids were unable to sit and watch it. They're like, "I'm done."
Well, my wife, she bailed after the 4th episode, and it was her idea to watch it. I wasn't even aware it was out. We got home on a Friday night, and she was like, "Hey, there's Dahmer show. You want to check it out?" And I'm like, "You want to watch this?" She was like, "Yeah." So we watched it. She was done with it after 4.
It really leaves you just melancholy at the end. At the end of each episode, it's just,
the end of each episode, you're kind of like just taken aback.
Yeah,
I guess.
You're just sad inside.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing for sure, the guy that played Dahmer should win every award. I mean, I thought he did an amazing job.
What award show is that for these series?
Is it an Emmy? I don't know.
Is it an Emmy, Golden Globe? Which one is that?
I'm not sure.
Any one of those.
Yeah.
I have no clue, but whoever, I agree with you. Whoever does for the TV shows at the times that was very well done.
Evan Peters, I remember seeing him in American Horror Story and a couple other things, but I also worry about the guy's health, like mental health, because I know people playing dark, disturbing characters in the past have had issues with like that Heath Ledger. Remember with the Joker and
he's as dead as fried chicken.
Yeah. And I know Jack Nicholson said when he played like and that's like a fictional character. He was playing an actual real life individual and put himself in that character. But I mean, I'm sure they're aware of that,
He put himself like so deep into the character. He did a great job. Just a shout out to the young actor.
For sure. And, we've talked before about the method actors. Again, the guys that get way, way, way too deep in it. We'll see how this one turns out.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I know I was impressed with that part of it, the acting and the
and reading up on everything, I thought they did a really good job portraying everything. Like the apartment looked identical to pictures I saw online. Now I'm hoping that I was looking at the actual apartment pictures and stuff from the crime. I didn't see the actual crime scene photos, but they had pictures inside the apartment, and it looks like they modeled it pretty spot on down to every little detail. So,
as we were saying before, the whole series was spot on. From the directing to the acting to the even the black lady. I don't know her name. She's been in other shows.
She's on a show coming out. I just saw her on a preview for it, but she did a great job as the neighbor. She should definitely win some awards. I mean, like I said, it was one of the better series that I know. Like we said, it was a horrible thing to cover topic wise, but it was very well done. This is a lot of info. So what our plan is to cover maybe in 2 or 3 parts. I'm thinking probably 3 parts.
Probably 3 parts.
Yeah. So we're not going to get this all done in one. So
I think we're trying to cover where the story began. They didn't really talk. They talked about not his first killing, but his first killing in that apartment complex. And I think where we're trying to start you guys on the journey is from his childhood,
right,
into, the middle age, into the latter part of the story, which is
till death do us part.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so this should run pretty much in chronological order. So, like I said, Matt's gonna start us off here in the very beginning. And Zap, you got anything else before we tackle it?
Are you kidding me? There's so much content in this. Do I have something else? I think we all have a shit ton else.
Oh yeah,
let's get into it.
Okay, well, here we go. This is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer is perhaps one of the most infamous serial killers in all of U.S. history. He was not only a person who killed 17 men, dating from 1978 to 1991, but he also had sex with corpses, dismembered them, and kept body parts in his home. Dahmer also cannibalized his victims.
Matt, I just thought of something.
What's that?
How about a little foreplay?
Oh, okay.
Hey, not that kind of foreplay. Here are 4 hints to give you a taste of what's to come.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Gutted fish.
Roadkill.
Doing a Dahmer.
And now, time for some history. Dahmer's childhood was not out of the ordinary. He was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on May 21st, 1960, to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. Dahmer was said to be very energetic and very happy as a boy. So people wouldn't think that right away of like him growing up. They thought he might have been disturbed or something like that. But from reading into his childhood, he seemed to be like pretty fun.
Pretty normal. I did read that his mom was on some pills or something, maybe when he was in the womb, like she was pregnant with him.
I think his mom, we can get it out there now, she was a drug addict. She was an alcoholic. The dad, I think, was a very loving dad. He was caring. He couldn't stand the mom, but they tried to stay together for a while, which comes later on in the story. So, I mean, he came from a pretty shitty upbringing, which most serial killers come from.
I mean, yeah, so if your mom is throwing you drugs while you're in the womb, the science has come a great deal since. That makes a difference. I mean, I know I've heard women that won't eat fish during pregnancy
because of the mercury.
Yeah, and it goes on from there.
I heard crack's much more. It's much more healthy.
Look, man,
crack's better.
Yeah, crack's a lot better.
Crack is whack.
Fish.
Crack is whack.
Stay away from all that.
Yeah. But yeah, and I guess, like you said, at that time, I think moms were just like, oh, I'm so, like, the pregnancy's driving me nuts.
Are you kidding
me?
They
would pop pills.
Has anyone seen Mad Men? Has anyone grown up as early as we did? Mothers were drinking, no problem, throwing a few back.
Yeah. I mean,
smoking,
drinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure.
I think it made us harder.
It did.
Tougher.
I mean, it used to be ashtrays at McDonald's and all kind. I mean,
on an airplane, for God's sakes.
Everything's changed, like, in the past 30-some years.
I have a handful of McDonald's ashtrays. Not even kidding.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Wow, that's probably worth some money.
Are those little gold tin ones?
Yeah, so they're disposable, collapsible if you crush them hard enough.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, Dahmer, I know that childhood-wise, it was like, unlike most of our stories, it seemed like outside of the mom with the drugs and alcohol or whatever, I mean, it was a pretty, somewhat stable family. I mean, the dad at least was.
Well, we learned about, his dad was smart, was into like a chemical type engineer.
Well, I don't want to give away all your stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm stepping on,
No, you ain't stepping
on your toes here.
Man, relax. The family began to notice changes in Jeffrey Dahmer after a double hernia operation when he was 4. His father, Lionel, thought that the anesthesia did something to his brain. As a first grader, He was shy and somewhat unhappy. Lionel Dahmer recalled taking young Jeffrey fishing and Jeff being excited about gutting the fish.
So I wonder what they thought the anesthesia did or whatever.
Well, his dad, a lot, and even in the story, as you guys watch his story or read about him, his dad always thought that after he was 4 or 5, he got weird, and he said he blamed it on the surgery. He said he should have never got it, and he think that the anesthesia did something to his brain, to his mind, that screwed him up.
You're saying at that early of an age of Jeffrey that his father had noticed, okay, before he goes in from the surgery, now after the surgery, there was a difference between those.
Mm-hmm. His dad actually wrote a book, and it's going way farther into the story. But he said that he could see an obvious change because Jeffrey was always, as a child, as a young child, as a toddler, he was always like exploring. He was always fun, happy. Mm-hmm. He laughed at everything. And he said after this surgery, he saw his son is completely different.
I wonder what he was lifting, get a hernia like that young.
The body.
I was just going to say dead bodies.
Carrying a body around. No, but I mean, that's messed up. But I mean, I'm sure looking back on after we know what's to come, but the father's probably looking back through life, like at all these, at the time you wonder how much of a thought it was that, but maybe looking back, he was like, oh, I do remember.
And it's hard being a dad anyway. Like you see some of the stuff your kids do at a young age. You're looking like, are they supposed to be doing that? That's right. A little odd. Like, what are they doing? Are they going to, and it kind of throws you off. And I also say some stuff later on as we're explaining this. There is some things that actual psychologists, criminal psychologists, things like that look for when they go back and they study these criminal minds, like what they did as children. And they say something like 80% fall into this category.
And just for a disclaimer, none of us, Zap likes to say, right? Go ahead. I'm not a what?
Oh, I'm no scientist.
That's right. Like none of us are psychologists.
Crap, am I wearing that one out? God damn it!
No, but I like that because
so honestly,
it's a good disclaimer.
I understand that I use that for everything,
but it's good.
I use them. I'm no scientist for. It could involve numbers. It could involve cutting the grass. It could involve fixing a valve on a plumbing fixture. I'm no scientist. I can't do that.
But it comes in handy on a podcast because like we're talking about stuff that obviously we're not trained professionals in, but we just have opinions on it. So when it comes to this type stuff, obviously
we're basically bullshitting our way into people's minds where they're like, hey, these guys are on, like, wow, they're on the air. They must
know something.
Yeah, they must know
doing something. Yeah. I find it interesting to hear about the psychologists, not to be confused with psychiatrists, but psychologists who can look back and, I don't want to call them Monday morning quarterbacks. So that's, I really don't want to give that impression, but it's interesting to say, well, oh, this explains so much because of this, that, and the other thing, and this, that, and the other thing. Okay, well, how are you going to apply that to prevent something going forward? I'm just saying, it's one thing to look back. Yeah, sure. Oh, well, that makes complete sense because I'm so smart and I understand that, or I've seen that before in my studies. Well, great. Do something with it, could you?
Right. Use it going forward. You're saying.
Give fathers out there or parents or whatever, give them a list. Give them the top 10 things. Like, if your kid's doing this, give me a call.
Right.
There's actually a list. I will be reading you
a
list here in a minute. Yeah, well, I have that.
There we go.
Yeah, you can actually get a psychology degree online these days, so it doesn't take take too much. I mean, not anything against psychologists out there, but I mean the things that they do have listed. When we discuss it, it'll be a pretty good discussion because you're like, oh, really? If my kid's doing that, shall I be concerned? I believe so. But yeah, we'll get back into Dahmer here for everybody. Well, the one thing I did want to discuss is Dahmer with the gutted fish. And that was actually his dad did have a thing in that where he said he did look at his son. And in the movie, My Friend Dahmer, it shows as when he's older, as a teenager, he does go out fishing with his friends, pulls the fish to shore and just starts gutting the fish open, punching it, like ripping the insides out.
Like no big deal.
Yeah. And his friend's looking at him like, he's like, Dahmer, what the hell are you doing? He's like, I said, throw the fish back. He's like, I just wanted to, I was just stood touching the fish.
Just had the compulsion already.
I'll put it back. Like after things all gutted out.
Yeah, that's one of our foreplay then, the gutted fish.
Yes, but his dad said or recalled that when he did take him fishing, he grabbed something and just started like stabbing at the fish, trying to get inside.
See what's in there.
So he might have been like 7, 8 at the time, but
he was, it's just, Curious Jeff. They got a monkey. They got Curious Jeff.
That would be a great children's book. Let's not put that out there because
wow, trademark that.
especially right now. It's hot.
It'd be a great cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon.
Shit is hot.
Saturday morning cartoon. That's great.
On HBO.
Right before Smurfs.
Yeah.
Read to your kids Curious Dahmer. Jeffrey likes walking through the cemetery.
Yeah.
Let's dig this up and see what's inside.
Where's that fish?
Where's that fish? Young Jeffrey goes fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody steal that out there. Any cellar dweller, any listeners
that's
out there,
ours.
please.
A
That's ours.
trademark.
Yep.
Oh, it's Zapp's,
It's
right?
on the air.
Easy.
But he got to share because he's on the podcast.
This is community property here.
That's right.
Wow, that is a brilliant idea.
I like it.
As a child, Dahmer would take his bike out and ride around the neighborhood looking for dead animals or any kind of roadkill. He enjoyed getting the animals open and looking at the insides. So
Wow.
that's going back to then he moved from the fish and he started seeing this roadkill.
Animals.
And there was stories, I don't know if they're conflicting or anything, but his dad was saying that he was the one, him being a scientist, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
He got his son interested in that, saying that there's really nothing wrong with opening up some of those animals.
And being
And
interested.
so,
in
yeah,
it.
his dad knew about this.
I was under the assumption, and you would know because of covering this, that came first, the roadkill stuff, or did the fish stuff come first?
No, they're saying that this was a thing that his dad witnessed when they were younger. His dad took him fishing. But yeah, the roadkill
Was the initial thing.
was what, well, he was interested in just the insides.
Okay.
But I don't know the exact.
Yeah, I just didn't
Yeah.
know if there was one before the other, if it was the fishing came first and then the roadkill, or if they found the roadkill and that sparked
Well, I
it.
don't think it was a fishing thing. I believe it was like one instance that his dad recalled saying that when he took him fishing,
He was into it.
instead of taking the fish off the hook and throwing it back, he was grabbing like a rock and
Trying to smash it.
yeah,
open and
trying to
stuff.
get the insides out of the fish.
Wow.
I got to tell you, one thing I did learn from that Netflix series was how to hook a worm.
Oh, yeah.
I never knew it. I looked it up afterwards. I mean, it's true. So I didn't.
Oh, from Papa when he taught him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that a worm ate in the front and it, pooped out of the tail, out of the end. I didn't know there was a little hole like 3/4 of the way through where something
Stuff
else
came
was
out.
coming out.
Oh, wow.
Because I had no idea, and that's where you hook it in because there's already the tube there. And yeah, I had no, look what I learned off the
Now that you say that,
the
I do
Netflix Dahmer thing.
I do remember that in the beginning. See, I was never I never did fish as a kid, once or twice. My
But-
dad wasn't into it, so I
No,
didn't
man,
know.
I was getting Gordon's or Mrs. Paul's
Yeah, the fish sticks.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
See,
Yeah,
so you guys grew up like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you how to
highfalutin.
operate a toaster oven, but
With the clan I grew up with, we were eating like squirrel pot pie and things like that.
Oh, would you stop?
so
And,
you were into that stuff.
I was not, but my grandfather was. So
Oh.
we would go fishing often. I mean, I learned how to fillet a fish at a very young age.
My friend Matt.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, but my family was very hickish growing up. So
yeah. I grew up in the
I've seen
city,
some
so
things.
I knew none of that.
I had no idea. Look what I wow.
you didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, you
All I
didn't
knew
know-
was where you grew up when we met, when we were kids. And
No,
we're not going to say where that was, but I know where you grew up, and so it was. I never
Yeah,
caught any element at all of hickiness.
Papa George was not the hickiness. Papa George was very Miami George. Like he
Indeed.
he was with the times. He was like listening to like Loverboy
Yeah,
and he had like the hairstyle.
a feather.
Yeah, the feather hairstyle.
A fan of Chicago, if I recall correctly.
Yes,
the
he
band,
yes,
not the
25 or
city.
64.
Not the city.
Great song. But no, my dad's family, that whole side was very like they hunted, they fished. We had a cabin actually up in Tioga County in Pennsylvania that had like no running water. You had to walk like a mile and a half, get like a bucket. They would put it in a stream. You'd walk it back. You would piss outside and like wherever you could. They had an outhouse.
I'd imagine where he grew up, Dahmer grew up. That's probably the majority of. There's probably
Oh yeah,
outdoorsy
like,
people and stuff
outdoorsy,
like that.
very outdoorsy.
Yeah.
But what struck me with this is like I think, and his dad recalled and looked back on his life, and he thought the things that he would teach his son about, like, hey, it's okay to be curious about something, and then when you find out what your son was doing, and you say, did I teach him that?
You think it was your fault for introducing
Yeah,
him to
for
that?
introducing. Where if you think your kid, and also with like having kids, you get interested in things that they're interested in because you want to make them like, hey, that's cool. Like that's nothing wrong with that. If you're into that, nothing wrong with that.
This makes complete sense. Obviously, you've got a father who's, as we will discover, who's had this son that gets into this trouble and that trouble and the other trouble, can't keep his life straight. I've got to believe that for a solid decade, that his father's just writhing his hands, wondering, what did I do wrong? What went wrong? What did I do? What could I have done better? It's got to be torture, just torture.
It's not like your kid stole something from, J.C. Penney's, like where you can be like, oh, like the kid messed up.
Stupid kids do stupid things. Right.
Like, hey, you learned a lesson, kid. Next time, you keep your head up, learn your lesson, move forward.
Mm-hmm.
But for when, if the cops call you in and tell you the stories about what your son has done, and then, like you said, everything in your mind, you go back to these points, like, what did I do there? What did I do there?
Well,
I could have done this different.
That's what I was saying about the whole surgery part. Like he was probably looking at every part of his life. Like where can we lay blame on this? Because it had to be something. You're not just born this way, but maybe you are. Maybe it's just in some
Which is
people.
also, like a discussion with from the beginning of people witnessing serial killers and what they have done.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, were they born with it? Did they turn into this? Is it learned?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, since we're on the roadkill thing, and I just want to get this one in quickly. So I remember as a kid walking around town, and I'd seen a cat that had got hit by a car, dead, laying on the side of the road. So sad, so absolutely sad. A day went by, saw it again. It had been run over again, and its intestines were actually pushed out of its, rectum.
Mm-hmm.
So,
ouch.
With a wrecked rectum, I'm standing there looking at it, and I ran home. My parents at the time had a cat. Man, I grabbed that cat, hugged it. I started crying like, oh, my God, I'm so glad you're alive.
What, the dead cat?
God, oh, my God. No, the one that was alive in my house.
Oh, you went to the house. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, put a little D.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No.
I thought you said, man, come here, dead kitty.
No. I'm giving you
Uncle Jay.
the comparison and contrast. You've
Yes.
got Dahmer who's cutting these things the fuck up, and I'm sitting there looking at one that's run over, and I'm losing
It drives you nuts. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
compassion, as it were.
But that is one of the things that's called the McDonald triad. And that's the thing that I was telling you guys about earlier, is where these people looked into three major parts of serial killers. And over 80% of the ones that they have on record as serial killers have fell into one of these categories. The McDonald triad. This guy McDonald, not Ronald McDonald, mind you.
Not old McDonald,
No,
who had a
old
farm
McDonald.
with animals.
Different one.
Maybe he could have been on this list.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The McDonald triad.
But this McDonald triad, it refers to three signs that can indicate if someone will grow up to be a violent criminal or a serial killer. And this is studies that were done for 15, 20 years by this guy McDonald. So this cat had his shit together. He was like, let me put this here. Let's check this guy out. Let me see what he did. Going back to his family and seeing things that were written about this person. They have the number one sign is being cruel to animals or pets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see like a little kid around the neighborhood, he's like kicking his dog just
being abusive,
abusive behavior towards any kind of animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that could, I guess they consider that the roadkill, things like that. I mean, that's something you don't, as a kid, you don't go, let me see that dead. You ran to hug your cat, which would be some normal shit. This guy's looking at some dead shit. Like, let me pick this up. Check this out.
Ooh, I'd love to cut you open.
Yes.
Or like sometimes they'll give Alka-Seltzer to birds or something, and they explode and like things like that, just like torture animals.
I'm curious, is that a thing?
I think it is.
I am curious as to whether that's, a tale told by old wives.
Urban legend.
Yeah.
You mean on the beach with the...
Isn't that true?
I don't know. I never heard it to be true. I've never seen an actual... I've never seen one explode.
I don't know. Maybe it is, but I was just thinking along those lines, like something that would kill an animal just for fun. Like I'm just gonna watch,
But I mean, I've seen dog owners and people as kids, like where they go hit their dog because their dog's driving them nuts. But this is actual like abuse
where you're actually like
hurting the dog,
or
trying
pleasure.
to like choke the dog out and like revive it and shit like that.
Take them to the
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I think isn't that how the dude from NXS died?
Well, that was more of a
he wasn't choking his dog.
Yeah, it was
he said, "Hey man, we tried his belt." Oh no.
No, I don't know about that one, but yeah, I know what you're saying though with the animal abuse because I hear about that all the time with people.
And Dahmer with this story too, this guy took it to another level where he had some sort of acid that his dad did give him.
Yes, I remember that.
And he would use this acid to break the animals down to get to their bones and get rid of like the skin and everything else on them. And he was just interested and curious to see the bone structure. And I don't know, it's just stuff that as his dad, I would look back on this and say, hey man, do you want to like maybe go just hang out outside and go on a hike or something? Or
well, Matt recommended a good movie I watched. I got to finish it because I'm finishing this series up and Zap the Same. We took up a lot of our time, but it's called My Friend Dahmer. And I did get to watch like a half hour and it really delved into actually kind of started, I guess, when he was like maybe a early teens. And it was good. I mean, it had a lot of info in it so far. I mean, I'm assuming it's pretty factual, but
I did look that up before I sat and discussed any of his childhood and his teenage years, is what we're trying to cover today, just to get you guys up to speed, because I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Netflix series and are like, well, what happened? How was he as a kid? And that's what we're just, trying to get out to you guys.
Right.
But the second factor in this McDonald triad is setting fire to objects. So as a youth, if you're very into burning a lot of things or
fire,
yeah, pretty much like Beavis, he would be fire. They'd have to look out for that cat because like that's not cool. Zap is thinking.
Well, no, I'm happy to admit. Yeah, I got no problem admitting that like I'm sure many kids played with matches, right? You find a book of matches or you find a lighter on the street. Ooh, how does this work? How does that work? And
here, there's some cardboard. Let me light that on fire.
Sure, but that's about it.
Since the beginning of man, you've been interested in fire and looking at, I mean, even I go out now and watch a fire burning and I'm mesmerized.
Do you think they might have thrown that one in there to just be like, hey, let's cover that just in case?
Well, yeah, just in case somebody, I don't know, blows up a federal building in Oklahoma or somebody sets crime, random fires someplace. This is
or into explosions or bombs. They kind of have that covered.
They're backing into it, and they're covering it here in the McDahmer triad.
The McDahmer,
McDahmer, yeah. Do you think maybe they're talking about like what Zap's saying, maybe arson type stuff where you're setting fires, versus just Zap was saying, and I would say is like, oh, let me light a fireworks or something, or light,
But I think something just are they leaning on that? Because when I was reading like this McDonald cat, like the stuff he threw in there, I was just like, that's a very broad spectrum to have. Like the animal, I see. The pet, I see. But with fire, I think all kids, like if we had our dads,
9 out of 10 kids, 99 out of 100 kids are going to play with fire. They're going to light matches, and that's fun. That's cool. I'm growing up now. I lit a match. How fun is that? I saw mom or dad do this.
So yes, I didn't necessarily agree with that. Like you guys are saying, I thought that one was just put there just so they could cover their bases. And I didn't think you have to be like the smartest guy in the world to come up and say, hey, if kids are into like lighting things on fire, then you got to watch out for them.
Right.
Because your mom and dad will tell you, like, hey, don't play with fire. Like, you learn that in kindergarten.
A cop once told me, if you play with fire, son, you're going to get burnt. That was when he pulled me over. I was speeding. I was 18.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he did tell me that.
What an old
He thought he
cop.
was in a movie or something. Like he had the shades on. He pulled
bad
me
detective.
Over. Yeah.
Lucky he didn't do a bad detective on that.
I know. He might have did that, but he told me that, and I'll never forget it. So maybe he went by the McDonald's rule. Or whatever it's called.
The McDonald triad.
Yeah.
The McDahmer triad.
But I wasn't even playing with fire. I was just speeding a little bit.
And here's the third one, which is another one too, which I think he put it out there just to mess with parents' heads. Or if you're reading it, if somebody like picked this book up and was like, hey, let me check this out. It's a regularly wetting the bed.
Oh.
So if you have a child that's like a chronic bedwetter into his early childhood, toddlers, they do it here and there every once in a while. But you're talking like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There was a kid that when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old, he was actually a year older than me. So I was, I'd say I was 7, he was 8, and I'd go spend the night at his house all the time. And middle of the night, he'd always go, let's switch beds. I'd get in his bed and be pissed all over the place.
You son of a bitch.
I was like, man, what are you doing?
You got me again.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
I'm not naming a name.
Not naming names.
He since moved away. It was a childhood friend and he got me every time. I'll never forget it. It was like he peed his bed, wet his bed all the time. And he'd middle of the night, hey, let's switch. I want to lay like top bunk, bottom bunk or whatever. I forget what it was.
What childhood game was this?
It was called,
bed switcheroo.
Soaking my piss game.
Listen, son, you play with urine, you're going to get wet.
You're going to get wet, yeah. He did tell me that. But no, that just made me think of that bed wetting. Actually, the guy moved away.
So you don't know. Was his name Jeffrey?
No, I mean,
okay.
I don't know. We're 15 years apart, but.
Wait, you were sleeping over? Wait, what?
No.
Wait a second, Zap. Can you help me out on this one?
Man, I got
Dahmer.
So you
Dahmer's 15 years.
Damn.
No, Dahmer's.
Hey, Dave's mom. Do you mind if Dave comes over the house tonight for a sleepover?
No, Dahmer's 15 years. Yeah, not the kid. Like I said, we were only a year apart.
That was classic.
But that would have been funny if it was my friend Dahmer.
Yeah, but so anyway, that is this cat McDonald, right? This is his triad. This is the 3 major things you have to look out for as parents or whatever. If you see kids doing these things, you gotta
watch.
Yeah, you gotta call the cops, man.
Yeah. So, all right, is it one of the three or all three?
It doesn't really explain that. It just said 3 things you need to look out for. Now, if you're doing all 3, that's you're right. That's a major problem.
Is there other things that they said?
No, that's just the 3.
Those 3 are just like, let's look at this further. And I wonder what percentage of kids that do all 3 of those things actually end up being.
Well, it said on his thing that he had written up that I had read, it said around 80%.
Of 80% of people that do that.
Of serial killers are violent.
No. I meant like of people that do those 3 things are actually serial killers.
Or committed a violent crime.
So the concept is you're going upriver or downriver. So if you're going downriver, this isn't after the fact. Something's already happened. Let's say, great example. Dahmer was discovered. So now I'm going to go downriver and say, well, what caused this? Or, I'm sorry, did he have these attributes? Okay, this guy who I've discovered has these 3 attributes. Okay, now let's go upriver. If I find some cat with these 3 attributes, is he going to be the next Dahmer, the next whatever? So it's, just because A might imply B, that doesn't necessarily mean that B implies A.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
It's just, yeah.
This is Monday morning quarterback shit.
No, I got you though. Makes sense.
I'm no scientist.
I'm no scientist.
No, I love that. No,
but
you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are, but we just question it,
Dahmer recalls at the age of 14, he began having sexual fantasies involving violence. This was also the time his parents' marriage began to decline. His mom was on drugs and drank a lot. He would run out into the woods where he would go to think when things got heated in the house.
They did kind of portray that in the show, the fighting and the constant arguing. And
I think his dad was actually like, he wanted to try, like at that time, to make the marriage work. That was like the thing. You had to make the marriage work. The mom was a lot, from the stories and stuff that I've read, like consistently drinking. Never had, like, she would make dinners and stuff. The dinners would be raw. She like make fun of the kids for not eating.
Why would she? Did she do it on purpose or what?
No, because she was just jacked
loaded
up, man.
I thought she just knew.
She was all hopped up on goofballs again.
She was like Ed Gein's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just thought maybe she knew he liked his meat like that raw.
she was getting a good one.
Yeah, so it gets a different, maybe make it a square instead of a triangle. The fourth corner of the McDahmer triangle, now square, quadrilateral, does the kid like raw meat?
Yeah. He liked it undercooked. I mean, why didn't they look at that?
But no, he didn't though.
Oh.
They were all like, "Mom," like, and the mom would be, drunk. She'd be like, "Eat my meal. What you don't want to eat?" Like, she was so mad.
Ma, meatloaf.
And then the dad would be like, "Look, hon, it's undercooked. Like,
you got to put it back in."
Yeah, and then I don't think, did I mention that he did have a younger brother? Did I mention that yet?
Yeah. Well, no, you didn't, but I'm aware of it.
Yes, he did have a younger brother, and Dahmer, he completely despised his younger brother.
He probably got all the attention and stuff.
Well, yeah, and plus mom was drunk a lot, and so she liked the little one. And she always said about, go with your dad, to Jeffrey. Go with your dad. Go with your dad. And she really had nothing to do with him. Mom issues also a little bit, little geenie.
We're now working on a second triangle already.
Right.
If you got, 6 of these, then look out.
But even as you're saying, to say that something like that, all these, even if you did have all those factors, doesn't mean you're going to go start drugging people and killing them. And
you just might be a little screwed up. But
I mean, growing up, like my grandma used to say, like, everybody's got their shit, man. Like, nobody's lives are perfect. Everybody grows up. Like, my parents weren't the best here, or like, I this or this, or, everybody has shit or issues growing up. But is there something, if you wet the bed a little bit as a kid, are you going to grow up and commit murders or do violent crimes?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that could, some people maybe have it in them, but they just don't act on it, Some
where real life hits, and everybody has like thoughts sometimes where you're just like, like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like that was a fucked up thought.
Yeah, if they're,
But yeah, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to be, you're going to do the Dahmer, man. It doesn't mean that at all. And this is actually what we were talking about earlier, Dave, and right now is the film titled My Friend Dahmer, released in 2017, which is based on the book My Friend Dahmer, published in 2012, done by the artist John Backdorf. And this guy was actually a friend of Dahmer's, and this is who.
What's his name?
John Backdorf.
Oh, John Backdorf.
Yeah, they called him Durf.
Dorf.
In high school.
Gotcha.
And he was the one that came to this. They were in school together,
Mm-hmm.
and he seen Dahmer, like, and he knew that he wasn't like talking to anybody, or he just do like some weird things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of like brought him into this group, and it was they were a small group of friends too. Like they weren't popular or any kind of like cool kids, but they just thought he was kind of funny.
What was that?
Dahmer.
That was Dahmer.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He's on the mic.
He's
ladies and
listening in.
gentlemen, Jeffrey Dahmer. We're going to do a seance later tonight to try to see if we can pull the soul of
No, thank you.
Dahmer up through the Ouija board that we have here.
I'll tell you what, I didn't get a chance to. I had a very light lunch, and I didn't get the chance to eat dinner. But I could go for a McDahmer filet of fish.
Oh.
Like I really could.
I don't know about
Hey, it's
you,
almost
but
Lent. The McDahmer's filet of fishes, they
coming.
flow freely on Friday.
Yeah, damn sure. You get a good sale on that.
I don't know about you guys, but I had a tough time after watching this with like red meat and like meat in general.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know. I mean, I'll eat it. I mean, I have eaten it since, but
It makes you look at it a different way.
yeah, you're like, oh, I don't know.
You're just going to take a second and look at it.
Mhm.
Oh, cool. That's a cow. All right.
Mhm.
I can eat it.
Yeah, and just makes you think. I don't know. The whole
It's
thing.
just a burger, bro.
We're jumping ahead.
Yeah,
on
we're
that,
jumping way ahead. We're just talking
but
around.
This is just the genesis of everything right here, where it all starts.
But yeah, this gentleman, John Durf, they call him Durf, back Durf. He was a friend of Jeffrey Dahmer's, and they attended Revere High School in Bath Township near Richfield, Ohio. So Durf would consider Dahmer an outcast at school. The staff would say he was quiet and polite, but he also did pranks. Okay, yeah, Dahmer was a big prankster.
Doing the Dahmers.
Yeah. His pranks would be known as
Doing a Dahmer.
doing a Dahmer.
Doing a Dahmer.
And that's what we were all talking about earlier. So there was a lot going on in high school with him. I think like growing up, the dude was gay,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't know if he was gay or not. He would do weird fantasy things on these like pets, animals, things like that. And they said at this age, he started getting into being in control of things or realizing that he wanted to be in control. And with his friends, he was always like the outcast one.
Mm-hmm.
And they would make him do things like, hey, go into school, do a Dahmer. And that's where he would pretend that he was having
Seizures or whatever.
seizures.
Well, that's what Zap brought up a good point, right, on that they got in the show.
Yeah, so having watched the 10-part series on Netflix, the recent one, if I read and I understand correctly, when Dahmer would do a Dahmer, he would essentially fake an epileptic seizure. So lay on the ground, shaking all around, or standing up, or doing whatever. Maybe let some spittle come out of your mouth or whatever while you're doing it. Whereas in the show, he actually mimics someone with cerebral palsy, something of that nature. That's the first thing I can think of is in Pulp Fiction. They call it that mongoloid voice. That I don't
That's a
want to
great
do
Devo
it.
song.
I don't want to do it, but it's that. And
I know.
You all know what I'm talking
Well,
about.
they did it in the show, so if you've
Yeah.
seen the show, you know what it is. Yeah.
So I believe that might be a artistic liberty taken on their part, because as much as I can find, he would mimic, again, like an epileptic seizure.
I got you.
Like one might find in The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford, as they're on the bus.
Okay, it's been a while on that one.
Yeah,
but
they
I know what
faked
you're
that
saying, though.
for the crash, or was that not faked?
That was fake. That was faked by one of the other inmates on their way. So as he's sitting there faking it, and the cop gets up, and the next thing you know, everything goes awry, terribly awry.
So into the story, doing the Dahmer, where he was throwing these fits, acting like he had, what do you say, cerebral palsy. The fits became so popular that people would try to do them also, and there's other people, and they would call it the Dahmer fan club.
People in high school would do it?
Yeah, some of his friends would think it was like such a cool thing. They would say, hey, we're in the Dahmer fan club, so they would try their own little
Like a dance.
dance almost.
Did they have
Yes.
T-shirts?
No.
Did they have merch?
Yeah, merchandise.
See, in today's world, you could have got, like, they would have probably been on TikTok, Facebook,
everywhere. Yeah.
Instagram. Like, he was doing a Dahmer everywhere.
Well, in today's world, he would be canceled doing that stuff.
I don't know. Good luck trying to cancel something on TikTok or any
True.
one of those platforms.
True, yeah.
I wonder if Dahmer could have an OnlyFans page.
I'm sure he would. I mean, we do know. I mean, well, we know what happens later on. He did have fans and stuff. I would imagine he would do well.
Do you think that could have been, right now, 2022, the things that they have, like we were saying, TikTok, things like that, if that could have been an outlet for somebody that was feeling the way he was feeling? Like if you would get on the air and talk about like, hey, I found this cat today. Let's cut it open.
Yeah, I fear that
check this out.
I think you would have a hell of a lot more Jeffrey Dahmers if you did.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of theories on that, but that's not until we get further along.
Yeah, that'll probably be part of your
And when I get into my part, I have a theory on that, which I'm sure you two probably already thought of, and a lot of our listeners probably have thought of. But yeah, in other words, saying Jeffrey Dahmer now, 20, 30 years later, I think things could have been different, but we'll get into that later on. So
Jeffrey's here. He has like Dahmer fan clubs. He's doing Dahmers. People think it's funny. Mm-hmm. There were some moments that he had that I think that I found very interesting in his life. That on a class trip in high school, he went to Washington, D.C., and he led a small group of friends into the White House, and they snuck into Vice President Walter Mondale's office. And this was all, I guess, Dahmer got on the phone, called up and said, hey, there's a group of us. We're from student council. We'd like to go in and talk. The lady was like, no, I don't think you can get in here. He went inside the White House, got in there somehow, talked to a lady at like the desk, was saying this stuff to her. And the guy was like smooth. Like he was like talking.
Well, obviously, as we go later in life.
Yeah.
Sade.
But,
yeah, Sade.
Smooth operator. Smooth operator.
Yes.
So yeah, this was something that I was like, wow, this guy is a serial killer, and he goes in and he meets Walter Mondale at the time. Who was that? Carter's?
That was Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter,
the peanut farmer.
The peanut farmer, yes.
That was Vice.
Yeah, Vice, baby.
Vice, baby.
Too cold. So, I mean, the guy had he had some
charisma.
But it's hard to say like normalcy to him. But I think that's something. If I was on, I mean, we did that our 8th grade trip. I remember in grade school, went to Washington, D.C. and went around the Capitol and stuff like that. But to just tell his friends in high school, be like, hey, stick with me. We're going to get in. Let's get in the White House. And he did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really shocked, like I said, because I know reading up on later on, like the stuff that he got away with, all the stuff that we'll get into. But I can see looking back on that kind of sets the tone for a lot of things that are to come as far as like him getting out of things.
Security was a hell of a lot more lax back then.
Yeah, it's not 2020.
So
for sure.
This is prior to people flying planes into buildings. This is only a handful of years prior to Reagan getting shot.
Right.
So yeah, Dahmer, he had that part of growing up high school where kids are like, man, this guy's kind of cool. Like, I dig this guy. There was also, when he was in high school, he did a prank where he hid in plain sight. So he would go like remember picture day in high school where they say we need like the drama club, we need honor society, everybody who's doing the newspaper.
Yeah.
So he just went that day and hopped into every photograph because a friend of his who was in this little group.
Look, all right, I'm giving both of you the side eye. This in no way, shape, or form alludes that I'm a serial killer or whatever. But
you did that.
A mutual friend of ours, a mutual friend of all three of ours, and I in high school, and you can look. I want to say it was our senior year. Mm-hmm. Take a look at those clubby pages, and you'll see shit that wow. Zap, you got no business being in this picture. And he and I just said, forget about it. Let's just go for it.
What else
we're just playing a prank. That's all. Just we'll see what happens.
Well, there was a guy too that had I think he was ahead of us, but had the cigarette in his ear.
High
school pit for senior picks.
That's fucking fantastic.
So anyway, Zap, him and a friend from high school actually did some Dahmers. So it was
Dahmer back then.
You didn't know this dude started that. That was crazy.
This guy was a trendsetter, or maybe I should say great minds think alike.
Yeah.
But for a serial killer, what I'm saying is like the guy did some cool things where people were like, hey, man, he had a normal, that's something that you would find funny. That's something that you would look at as a friend and say, hey, I dare you to do this. And the guy was like, I'll do it.
This guy sounds more like a class clown.
Yeah.
So for sure, this is a class clown that you can, and there's any number of reasons that somebody's going to be a class clown. I'm sure I did a bunch of class clown shit in my day. So call it only child issues, or somebody who has, in this case, they might have siblings, but they have terrible parents. So they're seeking that attention, right? Seeking for attention, looking for some kind of affirmation that whatever they're doing, something's paying attention. Shit, I know this one guy, when he was growing up and still to this day, he will do some of the most incredibly foolish and stupid things just to get attention.
Just for attention.
No
other reason. And you're like, man, you're however old you are right now. Why are you
still doing that? Wwhy are you doing that? But no.
reaching,
just
man. It's reaching. He needs to talk to somebody. Yes, peacocking.
Isn't that the term they use?
Yes.
Peacocking?
I don't know, but in his defense, to my knowledge, he hasn't killed anybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing with all this. Like, you don't know. You don't know. And like, a lot of these things that we're talking about, and you're using those charts, and that, like, all these things that happened throughout his story are probably going to remind us of somebody we know, and our listeners are going to be like, I know a guy that did that, or I know a girl that did that.
Girls you don't find very often. I don't think you look on this list and you find many girls who are like finding roadkill or abusing their pets.
I mean, when it comes to
wetting the beds,
female serial killers, I mean, there's only actually one that actually comes to mind. Well, the one we talked about, did the podcast about, is another one, but the Eileen Wuornos,
but
the
like,
monster.
yeah, with the I don't know, maybe she did. I don't know, something I have to look into.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing before I don't know if you have anything in there about, there was after everything went down with Dahmer later in life, and there was a quote from somebody in his high school that said, "Oh, that would have been the second guy that I thought would have been if I had to guess, he would have been my second guess as to somebody from my high school turned into a serial killer."
So there was somebody much more off the wall than...
There was somebody, I guess, in their high school that Dahmer would have been this person's second choice when they went back and were interviewing people from their high school. He was like, oh, or her or him, I forget. That would have been my second choice. So they knew in high school he was a little off. Obviously, you know.
Maybe we could do that at our next reunion, our next high school reunion. Like, who did we think would be a serial killer?
Yeah. Well, did this dude ever mention his first choice?
They didn't give a name because obviously
protect the innocent.
Yeah. It was just like something I heard, like researching this. It was that, something that I heard about.
That guy could be in Congress by now, probably.
He could be. I mean, yeah. I just didn't know if you had anything about that in there.
No, I did not. That's a new fact. Thank you.
Yeah, but that will come later. But I just wanted to tell you that now in case I forget when we get to the end.
No, this is like basically right now just talking about Dahmer in his teenager. I mean, teenage years for anybody is hard, but he would do these pranks. This prank where he, was going into all these photographs of all these clubs. The one teacher from the Honor Society was so pissed off because she's like, he did not earn this.
Erased him.
Yeah. So if you go into the yearbook, the actual yearbook when Dahmer graduated, I think it was 78 or something like that, 1978, there's just a big black mark on his face in the yearbook because she was that upset about it. But I would think how cool it would be to actually, to own one of those yearbooks,
That'd be worth money, yeah.
Yeah. And that was another thing with Dahmer, too, with all of his stuff, which I'm sure you'll talk about later on also. But yeah, back to a little bit of some more Dahmer things of his youth. Jeffrey became more distant from his small group of friends as he became more and more involved in drinking. He would actually take a bottle of vodka and he put it in his coat pocket at school. And he'd sit there and pretty much, he'd drink, what are those called?
Little flasks or whatever.
What size is that?
Well, it's not a handle. It's not a fifth.
It's not a handle.
Or a pint.
A pint, yes. Okay. He would drink about a pint of vodka every day at school. And it would be easy for him to get because his mom would be like, damn, I'm out again. Because she didn't know how that happened. But Jeffrey like take a little for him. Mom be like, I'm out, go buy more. And he had pretty much an unlimited supply.
Just kept topping it off.
Like about that cigarette you talk about, the last one you take out of the pack and like, bah, one there. So yeah, his mom just fed his habit.
And he started drinking about like 14, 15.
He was around 15, 16, started drinking like every day.
Dang. How do you got time to do that?
Oh, that's crazy.
But also, too, his friends were noticing that he was starting to become like more dark. Like, you would
drink a pint of vodka every day when you're 14 or 15. You're going to start getting dark.
But maybe that was just to control the shit in his head.
Maybe. I see what you're saying.
He's trying to drown it out.
He's trying to drown it out. Like, imagine, I don't know about the voice of people, the voice is in your head.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much to ask. He just walk away again. Oh, crap. Don't turn your back on me. I'm your only friend, which he's probably talking to himself.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
That's deep.
That is deep.
Man. But yeah, anyway. So to drink that much every day, 14, 15 years old, the guy has some problems. In high school, he built up the courage to ask 16-year-old Bridget Geiger to the school prom his senior year. This all started because his friends were like, he was saying they were like getting away from him. He's like, I want to try to be somewhat normal. And he said, so how do you ask somebody to the prom? Because he didn't know about it because mom and dad were fighting. Mom's leaving every other day, trying to ask his dad. His dad's trying to build his career at this time. He was never home. So his friends, I think, or supposedly his friends were like, hey, man, you never get a date. You're like a freaking weirdo. So they're kind of like putting him down. Bridget said he was kind of goofy, but she said he was very kind. And Dahmer was so nervous the night of the prom that Bridget's mother, his date, had to take the corsage. Like he was so afraid to put it on, like because he thought he would stab her, is what he said. Yeah. Like he didn't want to hurt her,
right?
And maybe that's because like the woman thing, or the mom issues, something like that. Maybe he thought that was so. I don't know. It was different than what it would be from somebody else.
Right. Animals, I'll cut them up. Later on in life, dudes, I'll cut them up. But chicks, no.
Not touching them.
They got to stay pristine and clean. I'm not touching them.
Yeah, he didn't want no part of it.
And oh, go ahead.
Could have been the breast too, like the.
Or he didn't want to get around that area. Yeah. Like maybe just.
I mean, he was just repulsed.
I wonder if he was breastfed. That would also be in it. Like, is that something with serial killers?
What?
What do you mean, what?
Take formula or?
Yeah, were they formula babies? Were they breastfed?
I mean, it might be part of the McDonald's.
I thought you were okay. So I thought you were alluding to what's now looking like the 7th or 8th point on the multi-pronged star.
The multi-pronged star
of McDahmer's
on the Dungeons and Dragons dice of Dahmer.
Yeah, that's right. McDahmer's 8-sided dice.
Yes.
You've got this thing. Well, was he breastfed or wasn't he breastfed? Come on, man. We're just really tossing it out.
I'm saying the bedwetting was reaching.
Did he grow up in the Midwest or did he grow up on the East Coast? I mean, that could tell so much. Or did he grow up in Canada? Yeah. Come on.
I'm kind of highlighting the point of how broad that for saying that. Yeah,
for sure.
The spectrum is out there, man.
That's where we go.
Yeah.
This guy sounds like he was on the spectrum.
He probably tested on the spectrum, I'm sure. Or maybe not. Is that also a thing?
Yeah.
Another interesting fact is that Dahmer didn't want to eat around his date at the prom. So he said he was going to go to the bathroom, right? He excused himself and he went to McDonald's to eat because he was so hungry.
The McDahmer filet of fish.
Yeah.
That's a tie-in. That's a complete tie-in. Yeah. So yeah, this guy was so nervous to eat around this girl. Like maybe his eating habits at the time were, I don't know.
You think he was going to eat?
So
he's like, I'd rather take this McDonald's.
Hey, where'd the prom king go? I don't
know. that prom king went to Burger King. So that practice is not necessarily uncommon. So typically it's the chick that's going to avoid eating, because a chick's not just going to sit there at a date, just rifling food into her mouth and oh, hey man, shovel it in, ladies. No, that's not going to happen. So it is interesting that he is the one, not the chick. But him is the one that was nervous about
eating in front of her.
Good point.
Yeah.
But this girl, Bridget, said he was nothing but like a gentleman, danced with her, asked her to dance, like saw his friends dancing, asked her to dance, they're going to dance for her.
It's probably refreshing though if she doesn't know he's gay. And I'm not joking about this, but it's probably refreshing that a guy's like not trying to get in her pants and like all about, I want to get, and he's just coming off as like the perfect gentleman. Yeah. Instead of like, hey, let's get out of here. And, let's go.
It's time to leave this place, baby girl.
Like, screw this.
Yeah.
So I can see where, and I'm assuming that all this she was talking about it after everything came out.
Yeah, because
I'm surprised that she would even admit they went.
Well, if you, on the internet, there's her whole interview it was in the newspaper, like after all this stuff. She was like, hey, I went out on a date.
I know that guy.
Yeah. And she said that, nothing but a perfect gentleman all night, was kind to her, asked her to dance, took care of her. He returned her home around 12 o'clock, midnight. That's when her parents asked her to be home. And she said he just said goodnight and drove home. And she said that a lot of it, she thinks that he thought she was going to try to kiss him. So that's why, like, he was just like, I'm out.
And went.
Yeah. Wow. But she didn't know either. Like, he asked her out, but she said she thought he was like she enjoyed the date with him.
Right.
Like, she was all into the Dahmer.
I wonder if his concern about being kissed was a matter of fear, nervousness, that is a thing.
Yeah, the first smoochie.
Was it just because of the gayness? Like, I don't want anything to do with that.
You wonder, like, if he ever, and I don't know if in any of the research that you saw, if he ever, and I didn't see anything about it, if he ever was with a woman at any time. Like, sometimes.
I think this was like his only shot at like a date.
Kind of date. Yeah, because you just wonder with him, there was a comment he made in the show about how it repulsed him and all that. That's why in the prison part you saw that.
Good job, Jeff. You had your chance and you blew it.
Yeah. But there are a lot of occasions where let me try it just to make sure, because you're confused probably as a teenager. Like, he has all these thoughts, but he's
more curious than anything, right?
Right.
But back to your question. I have not read anything that said he was ever
with a woman.
Yeah, with a woman.
I was just curious if he just ever tried it. Hey, more for us. I mean, I'm glad, because the way he was cleaning up all the dudes, like, he would have had all the, you know what I mean? There'd be none left for us.
He would have killed every eligible woman.
Dang.
In Ohio.
Yeah. I mean, you imagine? It's hard enough. But no. What I meant is, like, he actually scored a lot. It seemed like even as a guy later in life. You know what I mean? He didn't have much problem hooking up.
Like without drugging them?
Hooking up with dudes.
With dudes, like...
Yeah, his typically his shtick was to... Yeah, he would pick up the dude first, then invite him back to
yes, you're right.
Sex Town, and that's when he would slip the old Jimmy, and then the next thing you know,
they're done. Yeah,
I can't even get like his voice right. Like the guy did his voice.
It's that Midwestern kind of
Yeah, but he kind of reminded me of Kip from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
His voice.
I could see that. No, I can see it. Yeah,
he was a little Kippish, like, "Hey, what's going on, fellas?" I can't even get it. Like
it's like a timid,
timid
kind of, like monotone kind of, yeah.
But as we're going through the story of his childhood and his teenage years, I mean, he really did do some things where tried to be cool or tried to be in. It sounds silly to say the norm, but tried to be in the norm. And it just wasn't working out for the cat, man. He was just, trying his best. But sometime after the prom, Jeffrey invited a few people to his house for a party. Bridget recalls being invited and saying there was about 6 or 7 people there, and there was no food or drinks. She said a kid, not Jeffrey Dahmer.
Not for her.
Zing.
His friend like, man, Jeff, what's she doing here? She's bumming the party. Damn. Anybody want a drink? She's like, me. Anyone? She's like looking over her head.
No girls allowed.
At the high school party. So anyway, she said, going back to that story, a kid turned out the lights, and she said it wasn't Jeffrey Dahmer. But some kid ran up, turned out the lights, and he said, let's call Lucifer. So apparently this group of people that he was hanging out with were, either at that time, like finding out that they were a little into the devil. He's the devil.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess they said Bridget recalled, like, she got up, left the party, and never saw this dude again.
See, I was waiting to hear when the lights went out. I was waiting to hear, okay, let's do 7 minutes in heaven or whatever that goddamn
Find
game
and grind.
is. Yeah. You go into the closet 5 minutes, and then you come back out, and your hair's all messed up. But whatever.
No, they went
like the Boofster in Teen Wolf. And
precisely.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, Booforama.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess this was some kid that they were into the devil. They wanted to call Lucifer. They wanted to do
these other boys that were there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And I was thinking that they were the food. That's the joke. That's what I was saying.
There was no food at the party because they were the food.
They were the food.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I thought differently. I thought they were like all mad because Bridget was invited. Because they were a bunch of dudes.
What's she doing here?
They were like,
that's the way I took it. When I said no girls allowed.
Yeah, no girls. Yeah, that's missed you.
Dave's on a higher level.
Yeah, no. Wow. I don't know. He wasn't doing that yet, but I guess I'm foreshadowing a little bit.
A little bit. That was good though.
No,
on both aspects.
Because you just said no food,
on both sides of the coin.
No food and drink at the party. It just hit me funny, like because it's Dahmer and there's people there, and it's like no food for them. But
no, I think she recalled it like in that sense because she was saying like she got there figuring it was a party, but it was just some sort of strange,
like
what we would consider a party, like. People come in and have some beers, some stuff.
There's
like
refreshments.
Chips.
There's stuff there.
And she was saying she walked in from reading what she had said and there was like nothing that you would figure as being a party.
No, these guys are ready to have a seance.
Yeah, they just wanted to try to get the devil up in there so they could be like, hey, what's up, man?
Little did they know.
He was already there.
The devil was already there.
But I think there was stuff, he was into like the Necronomicon kind of stuff for a while, I think, as he got older. I didn't read too much into him in childhood, but.
No, there was, definitely.
Yeah. Was that Alexander LeVay or whatever that dude's name was? Adam LeVay. Adam Levine.
Adam Levine.
Maroon 5. Yeah. He's the devil.
He is.
Yeah, he's messing up. Way to go, Levine.
Anton LeVay.
Yeah. Thank you. The the Black Bible or whatever they call it. All right. This is going into Dahmer's first murder. His first murder occurred in June of 1978. This guy was like. He was drinking so much now after he got done with high school. It's a couple weeks after high school. He's kind of figuring out what he wants to do. He actually went to Ohio State for
Dahmer.
Yes.
Was that after?
This was after this summer. This was after the murder.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, this is just like I'm saying. The guy was actually he was kind of smart. He did apply. He did go to Ohio State. I don't think he lasted a semester.
Well, his dad kind of forced him into going.
Yeah. But so this summer. All he was doing was pretty much drinking. He didn't have a job, nothing much to do.
The mom left, right?
The mom's gone. She took the brother. And he was driving home one day from the mall. and that's where he saw this man, Stephen Hicks. And this guy was on the side of the road, and this was actually one of Dahmer's, like, one of his main fantasies was to find a hitchhiker, because as a kid also, he was watching this doctor that would run back and forth on this regular route that he would see on his bus.
I remember that, yeah.
And he had fantasies of just, like, sneaking up, hitting the guy over the head, dragging him into his room, like, killing him, and just, like, having him stay in his bed with him.
Having him there for...
Yeah, just having him there for... And he did other stuff with mannequins, which we'll all get into later with the mannequins and all that other crazy shit. But so in his mind, this guy is... And I feel bad for the Stephen Hicks guy, because you just, like... All the dude wanted was a ride to a concert.
Just trying to get to a show, man.
And that's what he said to him. And Dahmer sees him, and the way it's portrayed, he, like, backs up, keeps looking in his rearview mirror, stops, backs up a little more, and just on a busy road just hits, like, the reverse.
Right.
And says, "Hey man, what do you need a ride?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, dude, thanks for coming." Because they were both, like I said, this guy was 19, Dahmer was 18 or 19 at the time, and it was like he was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening." This was something in his mind that was just, you know, racing a mile a minute.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah,
It was hot blooded.
Check it and see.
Yeah, check it.
Yeah, his fever right now is like 103
At least.
At least it might have even been higher. So the guy is like, "Hey man, can I get this ride?" Dude's like, Dahmer's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, got some," because he was drinking actually in his car. Is what he recalled, and showed the guy some beer. He's like, "I got plenty more at home." The guy's like, "Yeah, man, just can you take me to the concert in a couple hours?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go. You know, what are they, pregame or
right back then?
Yeah,
just like
whatever. What was that called when you're before a show? Tailgating.
Tailgate. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Come have some. We'll get some beers." He's like, "Hey, maybe you can come to the show with me." So this dude, Stephen Hicks, hops in the car. Dahmer takes him home. And you guys know what happens there.
Dude was just trying to make his way to a show.
Right.
And I did hear, I don't know if you heard anything about the dumbbells or the barbell, is what he beat him with.
Yes.
And then I did read
I heard he choked him out with
yes, but there was also a story that said that Dahmer choked him himself. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like we're saying, we're talking. I mean, somebody can't recall what they had for lunch 2 days ago, and you're asking people these to, you know, recount? Is that how you would say it?
You're asking, okay, you're doing this right now. So how are you going to do this? You're asking the murderer, and that's it. That's your only source
he's
material.
The only source,
Yeah.
Because the other guy, he gone.
Yeah, you're right. So this is all from Dahmer, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you can't.
For all we think about this, wrap your brain around this one. This guy's a prankster, right? For all we know, he might just be fucking with all of us.
I'm saying
He just made this whole thing up.
When you try, like in a nutshell, man, Zap just said it. You try to go back and recount these crimes or these things, and this is all other people's recollection, is what I was looking for, or the murderer's recollection, or what the family might have thought happened, or what his dad might have thought happened. You're not really getting. Because it's not like you went to him the next day and said, "Yo, dude, what happened?" He would have been. It could have been some sort of crazy ass story.
Because when we talk about these criminals, once they get caught, and he's looking at life sentence no matter what. So anything that he could be held criminally liable for, he's probably like, "Fuck it, I'll just make up whatever I want. I'll make myself look good.
Look
in the story.
even better, yeah.
I picked this guy up, you know, whatever." He could just say whatever he wants.
Well, the guy might have slipped and hit his head on like the concrete, and that might have started the whole thing.
Right.
Like that was like, "Wow, this guy's already dead."
See the blood stains on the carpet,
Yes.
Annie.
Yeah, like your
Referring
shirt.
to the shirt today, yes,
Yeah, I like that.
because this is Thriller,
Yeah.
Thriller Night.
I like that.
But just saying what we're saying with these true crimes too, we try to do our best. I mean, we've been watching movies, we've been doing research, we've been reading things, we've been watching the Netflix series, and it's all stuff that we have no idea if this stuff's true or not. We really don't.
I believe for me personally, on this particular story, I'll go with what the show showed. I mean, I would think that I know there were some things on there, like I said, I looked up some things that maybe they got wrong but who knows on these discrepancies and stuff, that what's true, what's not, you know.
But based on the accounts that we know, Dahmer beat this dude to death with a barbell, strangled him, just killed him, pretty much killed the guy. Didn't want him to leave, which that was one of his things. He hated when people had to leave, had to go away from him, which problems.
Mommy issues.
Yes.
Right. Didn't you say earlier his mom had left?
Yep.
Damn, his biological didn't bother.
He said, "Lionel's my father."
I think the lyric is actually Phil or Philip.
It's Phil is my father.
Phil is my father.
But his father's Lionel, so you have to say Lionel's my father.
What song is that?
By Shaquille O'Neal. Biological didn't bother.
Was that Shaquille O'Neal?
Didn't bother.
Phil is my father.
Yeah.
Shaq?
That was Shaq off of his second album.
Oh, for real?
Second album.
I only remember him with the Fushnikins doing he did like the one song. Remember that?
Got
remember the
nothing to prove.
Fushnikins? You remember those guys?
Was that from people from Wu-Tang?
No.
Fushnikins were like Losh Move.
We got nothing to prove.
And then he had like a lyric and he had like a verse on it, and it was
but
it wasn't that good.
All I know is his first album was Shaq Diesel.
Oh, I remember.
And his second album was Shaq Fu, The Return.
The Return with D.A.
D.A., that's right. The Return.
Nice.
I remember that, though. I remember that. We used to use that quite often.
Oh, yeah.
Be like, man, my biological didn't bother.
I don't even remember that. I mean, I don't
know where the lyric, it was quite big in, I'd say, circa 94?
94 is correct.
Yeah. So it came out.
Actually, I
maybe 95?
No, it's damn right on. Like 94. You nailed it. It's 94.
Okay. So senior year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Gotcha.
But it was funny.
I was listening to Illmatic probably, or one of them. I don't know.
Look, it's funny because a basketball player
put out a rap album. Right.
Because he could pay for it himself if he needed to.
Right. Yeah, I know. I get it. I mean, I put out a podcast, so.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank God for them internets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So with this guy, Stephen Hicks, Dahmer was not satisfied with just killing him. So he basically had this body. His dad wasn't around. Nobody was home at the house. From the accounts and things that I read also, he began to dissect the body. I don't know if you guys heard anything else on this. He would bury the remains in the family garden. So he went outside, dug little holes, put pieces of bodies in the garden right there.
Well,
like
I heard
squirreling.
No, I heard you talking about this first victim.
The first victim.
So I heard that. Did you hear the story about him and getting pulled over by the police and the trash bags and all? You didn't hear any of that?
I didn't hear that.
I saw that on the series.
I heard it again and read about it. So when he murdered this guy, he put him underneath the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Until he figured out what I have to decompress here, figure out what I'm going to do. And he remembered all the stuff he learned about sawing up, animals and all that. So he took the body, dismembered it, put it in trash bags, triple bagged it, put it in the car, and waited at like 3 a.m, got drunk, and was like, I'm going to go dump this body. I forget where. It was like somewhere on the other side of town. He was driving, swerving, got pulled over by the police. The police said, hey, you're all over the place. And they gave him a sobriety test, which he passed, surprisingly. The officer smelled something like that was off. And he was like, what is that? And he was like, hey, they looked in the back of the flashlight. He's like, what's in the bags? And he was like, it's trash. He's like, my mom and dad are going through a divorce. They've been fighting. My mother told me to get rid of this trash and go dump it. I forgot about it, but I just thought of it, and I was like, let me go decompress, drive, and get it off my mind. And the police officer bought the story and was like, okay, well, just make sure you head home. The dump's closed. And that was that.
See, I remember that from the story, but from the articles that I were reading, they said that he buried him in the yard, freaked out about that, put him back in a bag, then went and dissolved them. He went and got little things of acid after he dug them back up.
Well, I heard, though, that he then went, after he got back from the Army, went and found the body, got it back, and then got rid of it and pulverized
the bone, crushed up the bones with a hammer. Yeah, so conflicting.
Yeah. No,
because I have from the accounts or the things that I read, it says about how he used the sledgehammer and buried them once more. So he found the body when he got home from the Army, is what you're saying. Hit all
pulverized
the
as much as
everything.
he could, and then sprinkled over the yard. But they did find, if you watch later in the show, they went back and were digging up and finding little fragments of bone and stuff like that. But yeah, the cops, if that cop would have actually looked in those bags, and this whole story would have been different.
It was Jeffrey Dahmer in the yard with a hammer.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Big foreshadow.
Yeah.
So Stephen Hicks' first murder in June of 1978, and so it has begun.
Yep. So that's pretty much what his childhood, for the most part, is where we would pretty much cut off this episode. I guess from here, Zap's going to pick up.
That was little Jeff growing up.
Yeah. You guys got anything else on the childhood before we wrap it up?
Just going into what, they're still trying to figure out today. Was he born a murderer? Was he made to be the person that he was? Was it all the stuff that happened as a child? Is it something that just one day he was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to kill some people?
Right.
So, yeah.
That was definitely, like I said, childhood was a little different, that for sure, but
A little different, but not the worst.
No, it wasn't the worst. Yeah. I've seen much worse, but
we have friends of ours who have had far worse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for now. For this week, next week, tune back in for Zap. It's gonna take us through the middle part of Dahmer's life. So what you'll be looking at like the Army and.
Yeah, I'm gonna cover from, as Matt had alluded, immediately following the Stephen Hicks murder. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna take us all the way through to the point where he moves to the ghetto. Mm-hmm. And when so we're going to cover things like he goes to college, goes to the Army, goes to Miami.
It's like an Ernest movie.
Lives with Ernest goes to Dahmer goes to Miami. So yeah,
this is also in our children's book that will be appearing soon
for sure.
Yeah.
Curious Jeff.
Yeah, trademark that.
That is great.
In addition, we're going to cover things like him in and out of his grandmother's place, him getting his own place again, and
grandma's place was a mess.
And then finally, I'm gonna stop and leave that savory nugget for you, Dave.
Oh man, that's gonna be.
He said, "Stop, Dahmer time."
Yeah, I got a lot in mind. I know
Dave will be a 3-part series in itself.
Might be the rest of the year.
That's just wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep. But Matt, that was a great job. I enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to Zaps. We're going to stop here, take a drink break. And smoke break.
Thank the Lord.
Smoke some drinks.
Yeah, and we're going to get back at it. So we're going to get to hear it. You'll hear it next week. So don't forget to find us on Facebook and Instagram at Old Dirty Basement, on TikTok at Old Dirty Basement Podcast. Don't forget to rate and follow our show if you haven't on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at. I guess that's it for now. So we'll catch you where?
On the flip side.
If we don't see you sooner, we'll see you later.
Peace. Thanks for hanging out in the Old Dirty Basement. If you dig our theme music like we do, check out the Tsunami Experiment. Find them on Facebook. Their music is available streaming on Spotify and Apple, and where great music is available.
You can find us at Old Dirty Basement on Facebook and Instagram, and at Old Dirty Basement Podcast on TikTok.
Peace.
We Audi 5000.